If you were Max Verstappen's manager, what advice would you give him? Would you tell him to stay at Red Bull or would you tell him to go to Mercedes? And that decision hinges on answering a key question, which is which team, Red Bull or Mercedes, is more likely to produce a championship winning car in 2026 and beyond? And to me, it looks like it's gonna be the regime because 2026 is the first time Red Bull is entering without Adrian Newey. They did not have any other era of dominance without Adrian Newey. And Adrian, before leaving the team, dropped some truths about how the team functions and basically the technological development capacity of Red Bull. So we were talking about the current situation of Red Bull, and right now they are a backmarker team. Max Verstappen hides it through his unnatural talent. Adrian Newey said this. He said that at the very last stages of 2023, the car was starting to become more difficult to drive. Max could handle it and Checo couldn't, and that's why there was a huge discrepancy between the performance of Max and Checo in 2023 and also through 2024. And Adrian was getting concerned about it. It's something I was starting to become very concerned about, but not many other people in the organization seem to be very concerned about it. And this is a problem. If the best Formula One aero engineer is telling that the direction of development of the car is not healthy, you have to listen to him. But if you go ahead and what Red Bull has done to mask that is to just to use the setup. They set up the car in a certain type of way. These two motherfuckers idea probably. They set up the car in a certain type of way that it masks the weaknesses of the car. And he explains it over here. Setup can mask problems to an extent, but the problem is still there. And as we can see right now, the problem is there. Max Verstappen can drive the car in any setup. He is very quick, he's adaptive and all that type of stuff. But the problem is still there, as we are seeing with the second Red Bull car struggles. And additionally, he also talks about why this problem could have happened. Adrian Newey thinks that it's because of a lack of experience. They kept going in that same direction. So, this is the first new era of regulation change in which Red Bull Racing is entering without the best guy they had. And it's not just Adrian Newey. Other people have also left this team. Jonathan Wheatley has left this team, and after that, Red Bull's pit stops have kind of become a little bit subpar. I mean, they're not as perfect as they used to be. I think that's a very obvious thing. Another thing which is concerning about Red Bull's 2026 title campaign is that they are going to build their engines by themselves. I don't need to tell you how complex this is. You just need to look at Honda's experience. When they re-entered Formula One, they had a lot of struggles, to say the least. And that's why Fernando Alonso is the unluckiest driver in the grid. Either way, they're going to make their powertrains and their engines for the first time in 2026. Regulations are changing. They don't have Adrian Newey. What are the chances that they're going to nail this on the first try? On the other hand, Mercedes, they are very good at producing great engines. Even from like the mid 2005s when Kimi Raikkonen was in Mercedes, not in Mercedes, but like in McLaren Mercedes, he was driving a Mercedes powered car. He was still winning races, and I mean, obviously there were some issues, that's why they lost. But after that, Lewis Hamilton, McLaren Mercedes won. Currently, a Mercedes powered car is dominating. Obviously, Mercedes themselves, they are struggling a little bit because they took a step in the wrong direction in 2022 with their podless design concept that should just backfired. But if you just look at pound for pound powertrain reliability, it's going to be Mercedes. These motherfuckers are doing it for the first time. Now, I'm not gonna say that their engine is going to be shit. It probably may not be shit. It'll be good. But the most difficult thing for Formula One engines is to maintain their reliability because the allocation is so less. So there has to be good reliability. The performance drop off as the engine gets older from Grand Prix to Grand Prix should be less. So there are a lot of things you need to consider while developing a powertrain, and some lessons while developing a Formula One engine are learned the hard way. You learn by burning a few engines on the track, you learn by having a few bad race weekends, and let me tell you something, Max Verstappen is not here to have bad race weekends. He's here to win. They don't even have Adrian Newey. Other people like Jonathan Whitley have also left the team. Currently, Red Bull are a backmarker team. And additionally, right now, I'm telling you, this sounds weird, but right now, Mercedes have a better car. If you put Max Verstappen in the Mercedes, he is definitely going to be challenging for podium positions in almost every race. I know there are certain tracks in which Mercedes is not particularly strong. Austria in recent memory was one, but there are plenty of tracks where Mercedes is good, like Abu Dhabi, Hungaroring, Canada, like all this type of race, an upcoming race, Silverstone. So Max Verstappen in those tracks is going to do better, and Red Bull is not as consistent as Mercedes. Red Bull, every time Max jumps into that Red Bull in a brand new track, in a brand new race weekend, he has to start from scratch. Now, obviously, he's the second coming of Jesus Christ. That's why he can quickly learn how this car is going to behave in this track within a few practice sessions. But that doesn't mean that this car is good in any kind. The weaknesses of Red Bull, like Adrian Newey says, they have masked this with setup, and Max Verstappen can drive the car in any kind of setup because of his unnatural, supernatural, supreme racecraft and talent. And because of that, the weaknesses of this car is not clearly visible to all of us. Yuki Tsunoda is getting the shit kicked out of him because right now I was looking at the championship standings for the drivers. Yuki Tsunoda is trailing behind Pierre Gasly, who drives a tractor, and now also Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson has more points than Yuki Tsunoda, and Lawson was traumatized AF at the beginning of the season because of the Red Bull experience, and now look at it. This is the real representation of how shit the car is. If you had to bet money, if you genuinely had to put money on which team, Red Bull or Mercedes, are going to produce a better car for 2026 Formula 1 season, I will put my money on Mercedes. Because again, they don't have the best engineer. Other key elements like Jonathan Whitley, Honda Power Unit have also left. Now they're going to enter 2026, a new era of regulation change with a brand new engine. Another problem that Red Bull has, and this is like the most important problem that Red Bull has, is that the top leadership, I'm talking about Christian Horner and this guy, what's his name? Paul Monahan, the chief technical director or chief engineer of Red Bull, Paul Monahan, this guy, and Christian Horner, they're delusional, totally delusional about the real performance of their car. Because after the disaster at Austrian Grand Prix, where Yuki Tsunoda literally finished last, like despite so many people DNFing in the race, Christian Horner said, our car is, like, it isn't an easy car to drive, but it's not that difficult either. It's insane, because Adrian Newey himself said the problem became more and more accurate to the point even Max found it difficult to drive. And there are plenty of instances in which Max Verstappen said it. He said that the car has turned into a monster. He said after the Sergio Perez firing and the Liam Lawson episode, he said that we could have done more as a team to help Sergio. And Sergio Perez, in his recent Mexican podcast appearance, he also explained these problems. He said that the problem of the Red Bull happened and they didn't listen to Sergio, they didn't listen to Max, they didn't listen to Adrian, and all of the key people started leaving the team, and then now shit has hit the fan. And again, this delusion of the top leadership is the biggest problem that Red Bull has right now, because if Max was in Mercedes and Mercedes fucked up, Toto Wolff is gonna just keep it real. And beyond the technical aspect, beyond the racing and performance aspect of the decision between Red Bull Racing and Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team, you have to also start thinking about legacy at this point, because Max Verstappen has established himself as the GOAT of the sport, and right now you gotta start thinking about which team you want to win with, because clearly if the car is even half decent, he's going to put it on podium places. If it's even half competitive, he's going to win world championships with it. So at this stage of his career, it's always better to be with a team which has a lot of history. A lot of proficient race finishers have used Mercedes. I'm not talking about him, I'm talking about Michael Schumacher, Juan Manuel Fangio, Nico and Lewis. and then Max Verstappen. So right now, Verstappen needs to rethink about another thing, which is his legacy. And right now, Mercedes is going to give him the legacy. There is something different about winning with an actual car team and not like an energy drink car racing company. All in all, Max Verstappen to Mercedes, make it happen, good move. The chances of Red Bull getting it right in 2026 are very less. And also, another interesting thing, George Russell, who currently occupies the seat that Max Verstappen could potentially be in 2026, he is trailing Verstappen by 9 points in the championship standings. And apparently, there is an exit clause that if George Russell pips Max Verstappen in the standings and Verstappen is like P3 or less, which will be like P4 and onwards, then the exit clause in his contract can be triggered and he can leave Red Bull to join Mercedes. Obviously, that could be a load of bullshit because if Verstappen wants to join Mercedes, then obviously he will join Mercedes. But it's funny because George Russell could very well suffer from success. Imagine that. You drive so well and you do nothing and you kicked out of Mercedes. That's gonna be the funniest part of it all. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.